Usually when we think about building a business, there's this ingrained expectation of permanence.
Right.
It's like architecture. You find a really good corner lot, you pour a solid concrete foundation, you
Yeah.
put up the walls, brick by brick,
Mhm.
and then you step back and say, there it is. That's my business. It's built to last a century. You open your doors, hire a manager, and well, it's predictable.
Exactly. It's geographically rooted. I mean, we really like things to be tangible. It's comforting to point to a physical building and say, that right there, that is my business.
Yeah.
The traditional rules of commerce they've always relied on that sort of physical gravity.
But then you step into the world of the modern digital economy, and suddenly the concrete foundation looks a lot more like, I don't know, sand.
Or water.
Right, water. We are looking at a business landscape that is, honestly, completely liquid. The old rules of physics simply do not apply anymore.
They really don't.
So, welcome to this deep dive. If you are listening to this right now, you are someone who loves a thorough, no-fluff path to being well-informed.
Absolutely.
Maybe you are a university student right now sketching out a venture on a whiteboard, trying to figure out how to actually compete. Or maybe you're just insanely curious about the actual mechanics operating under the hood of our modern economy.
Either way, you are in the exact right place.
You really are, because we are tackling a massive paradigm shift today.
A total rewiring of the system.
Exactly. We're looking at the structural framework of how value is actually created, how it's delivered, and how it's captured in a world that, quite frankly, doesn't rely on physical constraints anymore.
We are essentially decoding the operating system of digital entrepreneurship.
And there is a quote from the source material we're looking at today that just perfectly sets the stakes for everything we're about to discuss.
Oh, I know the one you mean.
Yeah, it's from Eric Pearson, the CIO of International Hotel Group. He said, and this is so good, "It's no longer the big beating the small, but the fast beating the slow."
That single sentence completely redefines the entire concept of competitive advantage.
Right.
Because historically, if you were a massive corporation with, huge capital reserves, you just won. Size was your moat.
You could just crush the little guys.
Exactly. You could outspend them, outbuild them, and basically just outweight any new competitor that tried to enter your space.
But Pearson is pointing out that speed and adaptability, those have become the ultimate currencies now.
And that shift is entirely driven by digitalization. I mean, it creates these entrepreneurial opportunities out of thin air, and at the same time, it completely guts the traditional defenses of incumbent businesses.
Which is exactly why you, the listener, need to care about this.
Definitely.
Understanding these mechanics isn't just for, Silicon Valley tech founders writing code in hoodies at 3 in the morning.
No, not at all.
Whether you are freelancing or trying to scale a side hustle, or even if you're working inside a century-old manufacturing plant, this liquid landscape is the reality you are operating in.
It's the water we're all swimming in.
Right. And if you don't understand how these digital mechanics work, you are essentially stepping onto a playing field without knowing that, hey, the rules of gravity have just been turned off.
Precisely. You really have to understand the forces shaping the environment before you can even attempt to build anything in it.
So let's start with the engine itself.
Okay.
Before we talk about how to actually be a digital entrepreneur, we have to define what digitalization actually is, and probably more importantly, why it's happening so incredibly fast right now.
Yeah, the source text is great here because it outlines 4 major drivers accelerating this shift.
Okay, let's unpack these. The first one is rapid technological progress. Now, I'll be honest, that sounds a bit vague on the surface.
It does.
I mean, does that just mean, oh, computers are getting faster, like Moore's Law stuff?
It's much deeper than just processing speed. It's really about the fundamental collapse of the barrier to entry.
Okay, how so?
Well, think about how a business used to start. Let's say you wanted to launch a software product 20 years ago.
Right, early 2000s.
You had to actually buy physical servers. You had to lease climate-controlled rooms just to store those massive towers.
Oh, man, the server racks.
Exactly. You needed a massive upfront capital investment just to test if your idea even worked.
You're spending a fortune before you even have a customer.
Right. But what rapid technological progress has done, specifically through things like cloud computing, is it turned what used to be a massive capital expenditure, or CapEx, into an operational expenditure, an OpEx.
Okay, wait, let me make sure I'm translating that right for myself and the listener.
Sure.
You're saying instead of having to buy a $1 million server bank, I can just, what, rent server space from Amazon or Google by the millisecond?
That is exactly it. You only pay for the exact amount of computing power you actually use.
Wow.
So if your app launches and it has like 10 users on a Tuesday, your server costs are literally pennies.
But what if it blows up?
Well, if it goes viral and suddenly has 1 million users by Thursday, the cloud just automatically scales up to handle it, and you pay for that new usage.
That is wild.
The technology allows you to experiment with incredibly complex ideas for basically the price of a cup of coffee.
So innovation just accelerates because the cost of failure has dropped to near zero.
Exactly. If it fails, you just shut down the server instance. You weren't stuck with a room full of expensive metal.
That completely changes the math of taking a risk.
It really does.
Which leads right into the second driver from the text. Greater connectivity.
Yes.
And obviously, we all know the internet connects us. I can text someone in Japan right now. But how does this change the actual business mechanism?
It changes the mechanism by utterly destroying the concept of local markets.
Destroying them.
Yeah, think about it. It used to be that your total addressable market, your TAM, was strictly limited by physical geography.
Right, like who could physically walk past your storefront, or maybe who received your local town newspaper.
Exactly. But greater connectivity means your market is immediately global from day one. Minute one, really.
The moment you go live.
Right. But it goes beyond just reaching consumers. It also means instant B2B connectivity, business to business.
Oh, like supply chains.
Yes. Your software can instantly talk to a payment processor located in Europe and simultaneously ping a shipping logistics database in Asia while running a customer service AI out of California, all in real time.
So the friction of doing business across borders has essentially vanished.
Exactly. It's a completely seamless web.
And because everyone is connected and transacting constantly on this web, we get the third driver, which the text calls the wider availability of data.
Right. And this is where the guesswork of business essentially dies.
Explain that, because I feel like business has always been about guessing what the customer wants.
Well, historically, marketing and product development were largely probabilistic.
Probabilistic, okay.
Meaning you relied on gut instinct, or maybe you ran a localized focus group with 10 people in a room, or you bought a billboard on the highway and just hoped the right demographic drove past it.
It was a numbers game, but a very blind one.
Exactly. But today, because every single digital interaction leaves a footprint, businesses operate deterministically.
Deterministically?
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't have to guess what your customer wants anymore.
Yeah.
You have surgical precision.
Because of the data trails.
Right. You know exactly what features they use in your app, where their mouse cursor hovered on the screen before they clicked, and what exact time of day they are most likely to finally make that purchase.
It's almost creepy how precise it is.
It is. But from a business perspective, it's incredibly powerful.
Which brings us to the fourth driver.
Yeah.
Greater organizational agility.
Yes.
And I'm assuming this is just the direct result of the first three, right? I mean, if I have cheap tech, instant global reach, and a perfect data, I don't have to operate like some slow, lumbering corporation anymore.
That's spot on. Agility in this context really means the ability to pivot and iterate at lightning speed.
Okay, give me an example of the difference in agility.
Well, in a traditional manufacturing business, let's say a product feature isn't working. Customers hate the new cup holder in your car design.
Yep.
Fixing that requires retooling an entire physical assembly line. It takes months, sometimes years, and millions of dollars.
A massive headache.
But in a digital environment, if the data shows users hate a new software feature, you can literally push a software update by dinner time.
You just rewrite the code.
Exactly. Continuous integration and continuous deployment mean the product is never actually truly finished.
It's alive.
Yes, it is constantly evolving based on that real-time feedback loop.
Okay, so those four drivers, tech progress, connectivity, data, and agility, they create the environment.
The fertile ground, yes.
But we need to pin down exactly what digitalization is in practice, because it's a buzzword, right? The text provides a very precise kind of academic definition.
It does. Let's hear it.
It says digitalization is, quote, the implementation of digital technologies and the transformation of conventional processes into digital processes within organizations.
Right. And the operative word in that whole sentence is transformation.
Transformation, not
Yeah.
just upgrading.
Exactly. It is not just about adopting a new piece of software to do the same old thing. It is taking the fundamental way you create value and completely rewiring it using a specific ecosystem of tools.
And the text gives us the actual tools making up this ecosystem.
The tech stack.
Yeah, the stack. We obviously don't need to define what a smartphone is, but we need to see how these pieces connect. So the text lists: cloud computing, mobile technologies, big data analytics, artificial intelligence, digital platforms, and the Internet of Things, putting sensors in physical objects.
What's crucial for you to understand as a listener here is that these technologies do not operate in isolation.
They aren't just standalone toys.
No, they form a continuous, automated feedback loop of value.
Okay, walk me through how they link up.
Let's use a smart thermostat as an example. The Internet of Things, the sensor inside that plastic box on your wall, collects the raw temperature data.
Okay, that's the IoT part.
Right. Then, the cloud stores that massive volume of data. Big data algorithms step in to organize it. Then, artificial intelligence interprets it to actually learn the homeowner's specific temperature preferences over time.
Ah, so it learns when I like it cold at night.
Exactly. And finally, mobile technologies deliver the interface, the app on your phone, so the user can control it from anywhere in the world.
So they all feed into each other.
Completely. The value of that company isn't the $20 piece of plastic on the wall.
Right.
The true value is the invisible digital ecosystem, predicting exactly what the user wants before they even touch the dial.
I love that. But I have to challenge this premise just a little bit because I
Yeah.
see the word digitalization thrown around constantly in the real world.
Oh, it's overused for sure.
Right. So let's say I own a local plumbing business.
Yeah.
We fix pipes, unclog drains, wrench and pipe stuff.
Classic physical business.
Yeah. Now, if I go out and buy a fancy AI-powered scheduling tool for my reception desk to book appointments, am I suddenly a digital enterprise? Doesn't calling that digitalization kind of dilute the whole concept? Because my core business is still physically fixing pipes.
That is a brilliant distinction, and honestly, it's exactly the trap that so many traditional businesses fall into.
So what am I actually doing if I buy that software?
You are merely digitizing a single administrative process.
Yeah.
You are still a traditional plumbing company. You just have a slightly sharper pencil for booking calls.
Okay, so I'm not transformed.
Not at all. True digitalization would mean fundamentally changing how that plumbing organization actually interacts with its market to create value.
Okay, so give me an example of how a plumber actually digitalizes then. I want to see the difference.
All right, imagine that same plumbing company decides to install cheap, web-connected moisture sensors in the basements of all their regular clients.
Okay, IoT sensors.
Yes. Those sensors constantly feed data back to the cloud. The AI analyzes that data alongside local weather patterns. Now, when a pipe is at risk of freezing because of a sudden temperature drop, or the humidity spikes indicating a hidden leak, the system automatically dispatches a plumber to the house before the homeowner even knows there's a problem.
Whoa.
And it automatically bills their credit card through an API once the job is done.
That is insane, so I don't even call them anymore.
Exactly. That is digitalization.
Yeah.
You have transformed the conventional reactive process, waiting for the phone to ring, when a basement floods into a proactive, data-driven subscription model.
Because the tech isn't just a tool at the front desk anymore.
Right. It has completely rewired your core value proposition. You aren't selling pipe repair. You are selling guaranteed dry basements.
Wow. Okay, that perfectly clarifies it. And I feel like
Okay.
that leads us to what I think is the most mind-bending aha moment in this entire source document.
The distinction.
Yes, because now that we know what the digital tools are and how they transform things, we have to look at how entrepreneurs actually build companies around them. The text highlights a massive distinction that almost everyone gets wrong. People use the terms online entrepreneurship and digital entrepreneurship completely interchangeably, like they mean the exact same thing.
They really do.
Yeah.
But structurally, they're entirely different animals.
Let's unpack the difference, because once you see it, you honestly can't unsee it.
It's the absolute key to understanding the modern economy.
Okay, so let's start with online entrepreneurship. The text defines this as a business that operates primarily through the internet, but, and here's the kicker, the internet is just a distribution or communication channel.
Yes. The core business model itself remains completely traditional.
So what does that actually look like?
Well, in an online business, the internet is essentially just acting as a very efficient megaphone and a global cash register.
A megaphone and a cash register. I like that.
The source gives some really great common examples of this. Think about e-commerce, dropshipping, freelancing, selling ebooks, or even creating a blog or a YouTube channel.
Right. So, to use an analogy, let's say I start a business knitting wool sweaters by hand.
Okay.
In the 1990s, I would sell those sweaters at a local craft fair, right? From a fold-out table.
Classic analog sales.
Now, today, I build a beautiful Shopify website, I run targeted Instagram ads, and I ship those same sweaters globally.
Mm.
I am operating online.
Yes, very successfully, probably.
But the value creation, my physical hands knitting physical yarn, hasn't changed one bit. The DNA of the business is still completely analog. That's online entrepreneurship.
That is a perfect illustration. The transaction happens online, but the product and the production are deeply traditional.
Okay, so contrast that with digital entrepreneurship, because the text says this is a much deeper structural shift.
It is. In a true digital venture, the technologies don't just serve as a sales channel. They fundamentally shape the value creation process itself.
Meaning?
Meaning the entire business model is built around the digital capability. You literally could not do it without the tech.
The examples in the text for this include digital platforms, AI-driven services, and data-based business models.
Right.
So, to adapt my sweater analogy, if selling hand-knitted sweaters on a website is online entrepreneurship, what would be the true digital version of that?
Okay, the pure digital version would be creating a mobile app that uses the smartphone's camera to take a perfect 3D scan of a user's body.
Okay, getting high-tech.
Then, it feeds that scan data into an AI that generates a hyper-personalized, perfectly fitted sweater pattern. And then, it automatically sends that digital pattern to an automated 3D knitting machine located in a microfactory right near the user's house for instant delivery.
That is wild, and the difference is just so stark when you put it like that.
It's night and day.
In the digital version, the technology, the 3D scanning, the AI pattern generation, the data routing, that is the actual value.
Exactly.
I couldn't do any of that without the tech. The technology isn't just the channel to sell the sweater, it is the product and the process combined.
Exactly. And the course material we're analyzing actually forces students to grapple with this distinction in a really clever way.
Oh yeah, the AI exercise.
Right. There's a pedagogical exercise that challenges students to use an AI chatbot to generate 5 examples of online businesses and 5 examples of digital businesses, and then critically evaluate where the line between them blurs.
Wait, why does the line blur? Because in the real world, things aren't always so black and white.
Precisely. The real economy is messy. Think about a modern media company, like a really large news website.
Okay, like a major newspaper's online site.
Right. On the surface, they sell traditional advertising spaces next to their articles. That is, a traditional business model just moved online.
Selling ad space, yeah.
But behind the scenes, they might be using incredibly complex machine learning algorithms to personalize the content feed for every single individual user.
To keep them clicking.
Exactly, optimizing for maximum engagement time to drive up those ad rates. So they have a traditional online revenue model, but a highly digital value delivery system.
Ah, I see.
Businesses really exist on a spectrum, and understanding exactly where you sit on that spectrum dictates your entire strategy.
Speaking of that spectrum, it begs a huge question.
What's that?
Well, we've established what a true, pure digital business looks like at its core, the AI sweater app, the Smart Plumber.
Yes.
But how does a company actually get there? I mean, you don't just wave a magic wand and go from paper ledgers and wrenches to AI-driven automation overnight.
No, it is a painful process for older companies.
And the course document provides a really elegant visual framework for this journey. They call it the Digital Transformation Pyramid.
I love this pyramid because it perfectly visualizes technological integration as a gradual evolution. It's a journey of escalating complexity.
And it has 4 distinct stages.
Yes. And understanding the friction points at each of these stages is crucial for any entrepreneur, whether you're building from scratch or upgrading an old firm.
Let's walk you, the listener, through this pyramid from the bottom up.
Let's do it.
Stage 1, the absolute base of the pyramid, is digitization. And note, that is with an I, digitization.
This is the most foundational basic step. It is simply the conversion of analog information into digital form.
So just changing the format.
Right. You are not changing the business process at all. You are just changing the storage medium.
Like what?
Like taking a stack of paper invoices and manually typing them into an Excel spreadsheet.
Right.
Or scanning a patient's physical medical chart to create a PDF.
Right. The process of billing or reading a chart is identical. It just lives on a hard drive instead of taking up space in a metal filing cabinet.
Exactly.
Okay, then we move one step up to stage 2, digitalization, with an AL.
This is where things start to actually shift.
Okay.
Here is where you actually start using digital technologies to improve or streamline an existing business process.
Okay, so keeping with the invoice example.
Sure, you have those digitized invoices in your system. Digitalization is implementing a software program that automatically scans the database, flags any invoices that are 30 days overdue, and instantly emails a reminder to the client.
So the software does the work.
Right. You haven't changed the fundamental business of collecting money, but you've heavily optimized the process using technology. You save hours of manual labor.
Okay, then we hit stage 3, which sounds much more aggressive. It's called digital transformation. The text defines this as the fundamental redesign of business models and value creation.
This is the massive leap. This is where most legacy companies get stuck.
Why?
Because stages 1 and 2 are just about doing the same old things, just faster or cheaper. Stage 3 is about doing entirely new things.
No, I see.
It's stepping back and asking, okay, now that we have all this data and these digital capabilities, how can we completely redesign the actual value we offer to the customer?
It's a strategic shift, not just an IT upgrade.
Exactly.
And finally, the apex of the pyramid, stage 4, the digital business model.
At this stage, the business is the tech. There's absolutely no separation between the business strategy and the technology strategy.
They are fused.
Completely. There's full integration across the entire value chain. Digital technologies are the absolute core of the firm's value creation, delivery, and capture.
So if the servers go down, the business basically ceases to exist.
Precisely. The business would literally vanish without the digital infrastructure.
So as a listener who might be planning a startup right now, I have to ask a practical question.
Go for it.
Do I have to climb this pyramid? Like, if I start a company tomorrow, do I have to start at stage 1 with paper, digitize it, get some software, and slowly grind my way up over 5 years?
And here is the profound advantage of being a new digital entrepreneur.
Yep.
Absolutely not.
Thank goodness.
The text makes it very clear that while legacy companies, the old giants, must climb those painful, slow stages to transform, new ventures can just bypass it. They build stage 4 directly into their DNA from day 1.
Because they have no history to drag along.
Right. You could architect a pure digital business model from the moment you write your very first line of code. You have absolutely no legacy baggage to deal with.
To make the friction of climbing this pyramid really tangible, the text suggests a great exercise. Taking a traditional business and mapping its evolution through these 4 exact stages.
Yes, the taxi example.
And let's do it. I think this perfectly illustrates exactly why legacy companies get absolutely destroyed by digital startups.
It's a classic example for a reason. Let's map it out. Stage 1, digitization.
Okay.
The traditional taxi dispatcher takes the physical logbook where they write down caller addresses with a pen, and they simply start typing it into a localized digital database on their desktop computer.
Okay. Same job, just on a screen. Stage 2, digitalization.
Right. The taxi company buys a software package. They put basic GPS trackers in the cars, and the software automatically routes the closest car to the caller's address.
So the dispatcher doesn't have to yell over a two-way radio anymore to figure out who is nearby. The process of dispatching is optimized.
Exactly. Stage 3, digital transformation. The taxi company realizes the customer actually hates calling the dispatcher in the first place.
Nobody wants to wait on hold.
Right. So they build a mobile app. Now the customer can request a ride directly through their smartphone, bypassing the human dispatcher entirely, and they can watch the little car approach on a digital map.
The value delivery has been transformed. It's a much better customer experience.
And in stage 4, the pure digital business model.
Uber, Lyft.
Exactly. A company that doesn't even own a single physical car.
Which is still crazy to think about.
It is. The entire value chain. Dynamically matching independent drivers with riders, instituting surge pricing based on real-time algorithmic demand, executing automated frictionless payments without ever swiping a card, and building trust through a two-way rating system. It is entirely digital.
The platform is the business.
Yes. And when you look at that evolution, you understand exactly why the fast beat the slow.
Going back to that Eric Pearson quote.
Right. If a traditional taxi company is agonizing for 2 years over how to train their grumpy dispatchers on stage 2 software, they're completely defenseless against a startup that enters the market directly at stage 4.
Because the stage 4 company operates with a fundamentally different cost structure and a vastly superior value proposition.
They aren't even playing the same sport.
that perfectly bridges us into the meatiest part of this entire deep dive.
The canvas?
Yes. At the top of that pyramid, we talked about value creation, delivery, and capture. To truly grasp how a digital entrepreneur operates, we have to kind of rip the business open and look at its internal anatomy.
We need to see how the engine actually works.
Exactly. And to do that, the source text relies on a really foundational framework called the business model canvas.
It's a classic tool.
It breaks any company down into 3 main pillars, containing 9 key components in total. And if you want to understand digital business, you have to understand how digitalization completely rewires every single one of these 9 components.
It changes all of them.
Let's take the time to really tear into this because this is the blueprint for our listeners.
Let's do it.
Pillar number 1 is value creation. In the simplest terms, this is making the thing. How does the company develop something that actually solves a customer's problem?
Okay.
The first component under this pillar is the value proposition.
Right. The value proposition is simply the promise you're making to the customer.
Buy this and your life gets better in X way.
Exactly. In the analog world, the proposition is usually a physical good or a manual service. A hot cup of coffee, a freshly mowed lawn.
Tangible stuff.
But digitalization enables entirely new propositions. Your value proposition becomes AI-based services, predictive data insights, or hyper-personalized digital tools.
So it's not just a static object anymore.
Yeah, your promise isn't just, here is a tool. It's, our algorithm will anticipate your problem and solve it for you before you even notice it.
Okay, moving to the next component of making the thing. Key resources. What raw materials do you need? And I think this is where the shift is the most violent between old and new businesses.
Oh, absolutely.
Historically, key resources were physical and incredibly capital intensive. You needed a literal factory. You needed a fleet of delivery trucks. You needed a warehouse full of raw inventory.
Heavy, expensive stuff.
But for a digital business, I'm guessing this isn't about buying a forklift.
Now, physical assets actually become a liability in the digital model
The liability?
because they slow you down.
Yeah.
In a digital model, your key resources are entirely intangible.
Like what?
They are proprietary data sets, highly scalable software architecture, incredibly complex algorithms, and most importantly, the specialized human capital, the developers and data scientists who actually know how to orchestrate it all.
The brains behind the code.
Right. Your most valuable asset isn't a building on Main Street. It's the network effect generated by the massive amounts of data your users produce every second.
Which completely changes the third component, key activities. I mean, if you don't have a factory or inventory, what is your company actually doing all day?
Good question.
Instead of supply chain management or, assembly line optimization, the text points out that digital businesses are focused on very different tasks.
Right. They are focused on continuous software development. They are constantly training and retraining machine learning models. They are managing platform ecosystems. And crucial point here, ensuring massive data security.
Coding and protecting the code.
Essentially, yes.
And you don't do all of that alone, which brings us to the final component of value creation, key partners.
This is a fun one.
In the traditional world, your partners were your raw material suppliers, the lumber yard, the steel mill, the glass manufacturer. But in the digital economy.
In the digital economy, your key partners are the building blocks of what we call the API economy.
Let's explain the API economy real quick for context. That's application programming interfaces.
Right. It means you don't have to build everything from scratch anymore.
Which is a huge relief.
Huge. If you are building a new app, you don't build a server farm. You partner with Amazon Web Services for hosting. You don't build a banking portal. You just plug in Stripe's API to handle all your credit card payments. You don't build a messaging network. You plug in Twilio's API to send text messages to your users.
So you're just snapping these existing blocks together.
Exactly. Your key partners provide the massive digital infrastructure so you can focus entirely on your specific, unique value proposition. You are essentially assembling a business, not manufacturing one.
That is fascinating, like digital Legos.
Very much like Legos.
Okay, so that is pillar 1, making the thing. Let's move to pillar 2, value delivery. This is getting the thing to the customer.
The distribution side.
Right. The first component here is customer segments. Who are you actually selling to?
We touched on this slightly with global connectivity, but it goes much deeper than just reaching everyone on Earth.
How so?
Digitalization allows for the extreme nichification of markets.
Nichification. Nice. Yes.
Think about it. In a physical town, you cannot open a store that only sells, say, left-handed neon-colored guitar picks.
Right, you'd go bankrupt in a week. There simply aren't enough local customers who need that to keep the lights on.
Exactly. But digitally, your customer segment can be a highly specific microculture of 10,000 left-handed neon-loving guitarists scattered perfectly across 50 different countries.
And suddenly it's a viable business.
More than viable. Digital delivery makes the hyper-niche incredibly profitable because you can aggregate demand globally.
And how do you actually reach that hyper niche? That's the next component, channels.
Yeah.
And obviously we aren't talking about retail storefronts at the mall or mailing out paper catalogs.
No, your channels are omni-channel digital environments.
Meaning?
Mobile apps, specialized online marketplaces, integrated social media platforms, and even embedded finance.
What's embedded finance?
Like when you buy something on a website and it offers you a loan right there at checkout through Klarna or Affirm.
Oh, right.
Your product might not even have its own dedicated destination. It might just live inside another platform, meeting the customer exactly where they already spend their time.
That's brilliant. And the final part of value delivery is customer relationships. This is how you interact with the buyer over time. And I think this is where it gets slightly dystopian, but also incredibly efficient.
It's a fine line.
Because you aren't relying on a friendly neighborhood bartender or a really helpful sales clerk to remember your name and your favorite order.
No, you are replacing human empathy with algorithmic intimacy.
Algorithmic intimacy. That is such a wild concept.
Digitalization rewires relationships through automated, hyper-data-driven engagement.
Okay, give me an example of algorithmic intimacy.
Think about your Spotify Wrapped at the end of every year.
Oh man, everyone posts those.
They do. And it feels incredibly personal, right? It knows your moods, your guilty pleasures, the exact sad songs you listen to on a rainy Tuesday in March.
It knows me better than my friends do.
Exactly. It builds a deep emotional relationship with you, but there is absolutely zero human involvement from Spotify's end.
No one is sitting there curating my list.
No, it is pure data reflecting yourself back to you. That is how digital businesses scale relationships to millions of people simultaneously.
Okay, that brings us to the final pillar, pillar 3, value capture. This is the lifeblood, making money and managing costs.
The financials.
Right. How does this digital engine actually sustain itself? The first component here is revenue streams. Now, if you are giving away highly personalized software, how do you pay the bills? Because this fundamentally fractures the traditional pay-for-a-product-once model.
It completely breaks it. And this is where digital entrepreneurs have to get incredibly creative.
Because you can't just slap a price tag on a box.
Right. Because the nature of digital goods is different. The monetization has to be different.
So what are the models?
The text highlights models like subscriptions, which create highly predictable recurring revenue. Netflix, SaaS products.
Right, the monthly fee.
It also highlights pay-per-use, where a customer is billed dynamically based on exactly how much server compute time they utilize that month. AWS does this.
But there's another one that's super common.
Yes. The most interesting one is arguably the freemium model.
Let's go deep on freemium because, honestly, to a traditional business owner, it seems totally counterintuitive.
It sounds like a path to bankruptcy.
Right. Why would a company spend millions of dollars building an incredible piece of software only to let 90% of their users use the basic tier for absolutely free? How is that a viable business?
It works because of an economic concept called the zero marginal cost of reproduction.
Okay, break that down for us.
Let's use an analog comparison. If I bake a physical cake and I give it away for free, I lose money. I lose the cost of the flour, the sugar, the eggs, and my physical labor.
Right, there is a hard cost to every single cake.
Exactly. I lose money on every free cake I give away. But if I write a line of digital code, the cost to serve that code to the very first user might be $100,000 in developer salaries. But the cost to duplicate and serve that exact same code to the 1 millionth free user.
It's just server space.
It is literally 0.00 cents.
So it essentially costs them nothing to give it away to a million people.
Right. The marginal cost is zero.
But still, how does the free user generate actual value for the company if they aren't paying?
In two massive ways. First, a small percentage of those free users will hit a friction point. Maybe they need a premium feature, and they will pay to upgrade to the paid tier. And that revenue easily subsidizes the massive base of free users.
The 10% pays for the 90%.
Exactly. But second, and honestly more importantly, the free users generate data.
Ah, right back to the data.
They train the AI. They build a network effect that makes the platform valuable. The free users are essentially unpaid employees, making the core product more robust and more valuable for the paying enterprise clients.
That is just brilliant business architecture.
It is.
But that brings us to the final component of the canvas: cost structure. If it costs nearly $0 to duplicate the software, does a digital business even have any real costs?
Oh, absolutely. The costs don't disappear, they just radically shift.
Shift where?
You have near zero variable costs, meaning the cost to produce one more unit is zero, but you have massive fixed operational costs.
So what are you paying for?
Well, you don't pay for shipping fleets or gasoline, but your monthly server bills to cloud providers like Amazon can be astronomical.
Right.
You don't pay thousands of factory workers minimum wage, but you pay a small team of senior data scientists and machine learning engineers incredibly high six-figure salaries.
The talent is expensive.
Very. And you have an ever-increasing mandatory cost line for cybersecurity, which we'll get to.
So if you are listening to this right now, I want you to run a little mental exercise today.
It's a fun one to do.
The next time you open an app on your phone, whether it's a fitness tracker, a food delivery service, or your banking app, just run it through this canvas in your head.
Look past the shiny user interface.
Exactly. Ask yourself, what is their actual value proposition? Are they leveraging my data as a key resource? How are they achieving that algorithmic intimacy with me? And how are they capturing my value proposition? Am I actively paying them a subscription, or am I the data they are selling to someone else?
Once you start doing this, it completely changes how you view the economy.
Yeah.
You stop seeing standalone products and you start seeing these massive interconnected business models.
It's like seeing the Matrix.
It really is.
But this brings us to a crucial turning point in our deep dive today.
The reality check.
Yes, because listening to everything we just discussed, it sounds like digital entrepreneurship is an absolute utopian cheat code for printing money.
It sounds too easy.
Right. You don't need a factory. You just rent some cloud space, snap together some APIs, reach a global market of hyper-niche customers, and just watch the recurring freemium revenue roll in.
If only it were that simple.
But the source document provides a very grounded, very necessary reality check. Segment 5 of the course explores the double-edged sword, the massive advantages versus the crushing limitations of this digital environment.
It is vital to look at the physics of this environment objectively before jumping in. So let's start by formalizing those advantages, the reasons why so much venture capital flows so heavily into this sector.
Right, let's lay out the highs. The text lists several distinct, powerful benefits. First, lower entry barriers. As we discussed with OpEx versus CapEx, you don't need a massive bank loan to prototype an idea anymore.
Anyone with a laptop can start.
Second, immediate global market access. Third, incredible scalability, fueled by that zero marginal cost of reproduction we just broke down.
Fourth, access to granular data and analytics, allowing for that perfect deterministic personalization we talked about.
No more guessing.
Fifth, faster innovation cycles through continuous deployment and rapid A/B testing. You can test features in real time.
And sixth, highly flexible revenue models like freemium and dynamic subscriptions that traditional physical businesses simply cannot execute. Those are incredible tailwinds for any founder. But, and this is a massive but, here is the catch.
It is always a catch.
If it is that easy and that cheap for you to scale globally, well, it is equally easy and cheap for someone else to do it too.
Exactly.
And that introduces the brutal structural realities of the digital environment. The text calls these limitations.
And it's really important to understand what a limitation actually is in this context. A limitation isn't a disaster. It isn't an accident. It is a structural fact of the environment.
It's just the weather.
Exactly. It is the gravity you have to fight against every single day you operate.
Let's walk through this gravity. The first limitation is exactly what I just hinted at: intense, borderless competition.
Right. In the physical world, your competition is whoever happens to be located on the same street or in the same town.
You have a geographic moat.
Yes. But in the digital world, because the barriers to entry are practically non-existent, your competition is quite literally everyone on Earth with an internet connection.
That is terrifying.
It is. If you launch a clever, highly profitable software tool from your dorm room in Chicago today, a team of hungry developers in Eastern Europe or Southeast Asia can see it, reverse engineer it, build a slightly cheaper version, and launch it to your exact same global market in a matter of weeks.
You have absolutely zero geographic protection.
None. You have to out-innovate them constantly.
Which leads right into the second limitation: the profound dependence on technology and the constant digital skills gap.
This is a huge stressor for founders. You are only as viable as your team's technical literacy.
And tech moves fast.
So fast.
Yeah.
The half-life of a digital skill is incredibly short now. What made you an expert senior developer 3 years ago might be a task that is completely automated by a basic AI tool today.
So you can't just hire someone and coast.
No. If your team stops actively learning for even 6 months, your entire business begins to atrophy. You are running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up.
Which ties directly into the third limitation, rapid technological change. You are essentially building your castle on shifting sand.
Constantly shifting.
You can spend a year developing a brilliant new software feature, and suddenly Apple or Google releases a major operating system update that includes your specific feature as a free native default on every phone.
Sherlocking, they call it.
Right. And boom, your entire value proposition just evaporates overnight.
And mentioning Apple and Google brings us perfectly to the fourth limitation, which is perhaps the most terrifying structural reality for a digital entrepreneur.
Platform dependence.
Platform dependence.
Let's expand on an analogy here because I think this is critical for people to visualize. Building a digital business on a major platform is essentially like building your beautiful, highly profitable flagship retail store inside a mall that you do not own.
That is the absolute best way to visualize it. Most digital businesses do not own their core infrastructure or their primary distribution channels.
They rent space.
They rely entirely on the Apple App Store, the Amazon Marketplace, or the Facebook and Google ad algorithms to reach their customers.
They don't own them all.
You do not own them all.
Yeah.
And the mall owner, big tech, can completely rearrange the hallways overnight without even telling you.
Right. So one day, your digital store is right next to the food court, getting massive foot traffic from the algorithm. You are highly profitable. Everything is great.
Living the dream.
But the next morning you wake up, the algorithm has updated, and your store has effectively been moved behind the mall dumpsters.
Your traffic plummets.
Your customer acquisition cost quadruples in 24 hours. And the worst part, you have absolutely no one to call.
There is no customer service number to argue your case with an algorithm.
You are completely 100% at the mercy of the platform's automated rules.
It is a profound vulnerability that every digital business lives with.
And the final structural limitation the TARDIS notes is customer trust and security concerns.
This is a big one.
When you operate digitally, you are asking customers to hand over their most sensitive data, their physical location, their credit card numbers, their personal reading habits.
They're asking for a lot of trust.
Right. Establishing and, more importantly, maintaining the incredibly complex security infrastructure required to protect that data is an enormous, non-negotiable baseline tax on your business. You have to pay it just to play the game.
And that concept of security perfectly transitions us from the structural limitations into the active threats.
The dark side.
Yes, because it's one thing to fight gravity every day, it's another thing entirely to dodge a meteor.
Segment 6 explores exactly that, the risks of digital ventures.
And the course text makes a very precise academic distinction here that we need to highlight.
Okay, what's the distinction?
We just discussed limitations, the constant structural rules of the game. But a risk is an uncertain event. It is a specific acute threat that can strike suddenly and threaten the actual survival of your business.
Limitations are the weather. Risks are a lightning strike.
Perfect analogy.
Let's break down the 6 specific existential risks outlined in the course. Risk number 1, cybersecurity. And to be clear, this isn't just about, someone stealing a password to your email.
No. This is the threat of active malice, completely paralyzing your operation.
Paralyzing.
Because your entire value chain is digital, a targeted cyber attack like a massive ransomware attack doesn't just hurt your business, it completely freezes it.
It locks the doors.
It shuts down your data pipelines, it holds your entire customer database hostage, and it can instantly destroy all that algorithmic intimacy and trust you've spent years building. If you can't access your servers, you literally do not have a business.
Which leads to risk number 2, data privacy risks. Now, this isn't about outside hackers breaking in. This is about you, the entrepreneur, mishandling the data you've collected.
And the stakes here are truly existential now. Governments worldwide are waking up and implementing incredibly strict data protection regulations.
Like the GDPR in Europe.
Exactly. And the GDPR isn't a joke. It allows regulators to fine a company up to 4% of their global annual revenue for severe privacy violations.
4% of total revenue, not profit, revenue.
Revenue. It is not a slap on the wrist. If your startup gets sloppy with user data or sells it improperly, the regulatory fines can literally bankrupt you overnight.
Risk number 3, technological obsolescence. We mentioned rapid change as a limitation earlier, but the acute risk here is waking up to a complete paradigm shift.
A shift that renders you useless.
Yeah, look at the speed of generative AI right now. Entire, highly profitable companies were built around writing basic marketing copy or generating stock
They
photos.
had great margins.
But within a matter of months, foundational AI models made those entire business models practically obsolete. The meteor just landed on them.
It's brutal. And the acute realization of that platform dependence we talked about earlier, that is risk number 4, platform dependency risk.
This goes way beyond the algorithm just changing your rank. This is the acute threat of the ban.
The ban, yes.
Imagine this. You build a multi-million-dollar business relying entirely on an app store. One night, an automated moderation bot falsely flags your developer account for some obscure policy violation.
It happens all the time.
Suddenly, your app is removed, just gone. Your revenue goes to absolute zero instantly, and you are trapped in an automated appeals process for weeks, bleeding cash, desperately trying to get an actual human being on the phone to fix a bot's mistake. It is a localized doomsday scenario.
It really is. Risk number 5 is market volatility.
Which makes sense. Because there is absolutely no geographic friction, consumer preferences can shift violently and globally.
Fads move faster than ever.
Right. A viral trend on social media can make your product the hottest thing on earth on a Monday and completely irrelevant by Friday. Predicting inventory or server loads in that environment is a nightmare.
And finally, risk number 6, reputation risk.
Cancel culture for businesses.
Exactly. This is the viral nature of the internet turned aggressively against you as a founder.
In the analog days, an unhappy customer might, tell 10 friends at the local diner?
Right. The damage was strictly contained by physical geography.
But in the digital era,
An unhappy customer with a clever TikTok video can broadcast a highly damaging negative review to 10 million people in 24 hours.
it's terrifying scale.
Or a poorly judged social media post from your brand account can ignite a global backlash that incinerates your carefully crafted reputation instantly. The sheer speed of digital delivery applies to destruction just as much as it applies to value creation.
Wow. When you step back and look at the totality of these risks, the constant threat of cyber paralysis, massive regulatory fines, overnight obsolescence, automated platform bans, hypervolatility, and viral destruction, it really paints a very sobering picture of what it actually takes to survive in this space.
It does. It requires a very specific type of resilience.
Earlier we talked about how digital entrepreneurship has such incredible low barriers to entry because you don't have that massive physical overhead. You don't need to buy a warehouse or a fleet of trucks.
Right. The financial barrier is low.
But looking at these existential threats, the reality becomes glaringly clear. The physical overhead is low, but the strategic and mental overhead is absolutely immense.
That is perfectly said.
You have essentially traded financial capital for cognitive capital. You have to be hyper-vigilant, constantly adapting to algorithms, constantly monitoring the horizon for the next AI shift, constantly patching security holes.
It's exhausting just talking about it. The barrier to entry is low, yes, but the barrier to long-term survival is incredibly high. It requires immense strategic foresight.
So let's kind of take a breath and take a step back to look at the vast landscape we have just traversed in this deep dive today.
We covered a lot of ground.
We did. We started by dismantling that old, comforting concrete foundation of physical business and examining the raw drivers of this new liquid economy.
How cloud computing and global data have shifted CapEx to OpEx and basically destroyed the friction of traditional commerce.
Right. Then we made that crucial structural distinction, and I hope everyone remembers this, between merely slapping an online channel onto a traditional business versus architecting a pure digital business model where the technology itself is the value creation.
The sweater analogy, online versus digital.
Exactly. We mapped the painful evolution of legacy companies trying to climb the digital transformation pyramid, showing exactly why a stage 4 digital startup can just obliterate a stage 2 legacy company like a taxi service.
We ripped open the business model canvas to see the internal anatomy of these new firms.
Right. How physical resources are replaced by intangible network effects, how omnichannel delivery replaces physical storefronts, and how zero marginal cost allows for incredible, weird monetization strategies like freemium.
And finally, we grounded all of that theoretical utopian power in the harsh physical laws of a digital environment.
The reality check. We weighed the incredible advantages of global scale against the crushing gravity of platform dependence, intense borderless competition, and the acute existential risks that digital entrepreneurs have to navigate every single hour of every single day.
The ultimate takeaway for you, the listener, is that having this knowledge, understanding these frameworks, it basically gives you X-ray vision.
I love that. X-ray vision.
It really does. The next time you download a new piece of software or you watch a startup launch on social media or you see a legacy 100-year-old company go bankrupt, you won't just see the surface events anymore.
You'll see the gears turning underneath.
Exactly. You will see the structural mechanics. You will understand exactly how and why the fast beat the slow. You now have the actual blueprint for how value moves in the modern world.
That is so powerful. But before we go, I want to leave you with one final, highly provocative thought to mull over.
Oh, lay it on us.
Something that builds on literally everything we've discussed today, but extrapolates it into the near future.
Okay.
We have spent this entire deep dive talking about how digital tools, data, and AI are relentlessly driving the cost of personalization and global scale down to near zero. Digital experiences are becoming completely frictionless, instant, and incredibly cheap to deliver.
It's the inevitable march toward infinite digital scale.
Exactly. So here's the question. If the digital experience eventually becomes completely ubiquitous, perfectly personalized by AI, and functionally free,
Wait.
will the most valuable, highly prized, and expensive business models of the future actually be the exact opposite?
Wait, what do you mean?
Well, will the ultimate premium luxury be a business that guarantees a 100% offline, analog, human-only, physically constrained experience?
Wow. That is a fascinating thought experiment.
Right.
Because when speed and digital perfection become just a cheap, everyday commodity, then human friction and physical imperfection might suddenly become the ultimate luxury features. People will pay for the friction.
Precisely. We started this whole discussion talking about how the liquid landscape of the digital economy has totally replaced the concrete foundation. But maybe, just maybe, in a future where absolutely everything is liquid, people will eventually pay a massive premium just for the privilege of standing on solid ground again.
It's a profound thought.
Definitely something to think about as you navigate this space. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We will see you next time.